Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping straight into something that, well, it feels futuristic, but it's really happening right now.
Mm,
We're talking about AI and machine learning in healthcare.
absolutely. It's everywhere.
Exactly. And, you hear about it all the time, but maybe you want to get a real handle on what it actually means for health, for medicine, without getting totally bogged down in tech speak.
And that's the plan. We've really dug into some fascinating research here.
Right.
We've looked at narrative reviews covering the big picture, the benefits, the risks,
Okay.
specific dives into machine learning for finding new drugs, AI in medical imaging, which is huge, and even personalized medicine for things like chronic inflammatory diseases or
Oh,
cancer.
wow, quite a range.
Yeah, and also, general overviews and some really interesting stuff on using ML to predict disease outbreaks. Think public health.
Okay, so our mission today basically is to pull out the key stuff, the really game-changing ideas from all that, maybe highlight some surprising bits.
Exactly. Give a clear picture of the potential, but also, the challenges that are still there.
Perfect, so let's get into it. So AI, ML in healthcare. What are we fundamentally talking about here? Just the basics.
Okay, so AI, artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
fundamentally, it's about building machines that can do tasks that, well, normally need human intelligence.
Mm.
Thinking, problem solving.
Decision making, that sort of thing.
Right. And machine learning, ML, is a subset of AI. The really cool part is that ML systems learn from data. They find patterns, make predictions, all without being explicitly programmed for every single scenario.
So they figure things out themselves, more or less, based on examples.
Precisely. They learn from experience, from the data. And in healthcare, there's a whole toolkit of these AI technologies being used, obviously ML, but also deep learning.
Which is a type of ML.
Yeah, a more complex type using these layered networks, kind of inspired by the brain. It's very powerful for intricate tasks. Then you got natural language processing, NLP.
For understanding text and speech, like
Yeah,
doctor's notes.
exactly. Or research papers. There are also older rule-based systems, physical robots in surgery, and even robotic process automation for handling admin tasks.
Quite the mix. You said deep learning is really getting attention now. Why is that?
Well, it's just incredibly good at finding really subtle, complex patterns in massive data sets. Think medical images, genomic data, the kind of complexity that other methods might struggle with. That ability to handle nuance is why it's driving so much progress right now.
Okay. And within machine learning itself, there are different approaches. You mentioned supervised, unsupervised. It sounds like teaching methods.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Supervised learning is like teaching with flashcards. You give the computer labeled data where you already know the answer.
Like this image shows cancer, this one doesn't.
Exactly. The model learns the relationship between the input and the known output. This is crucial for things like finding biomarkers, making specific diagnoses, predicting patient prognosis. We use algorithms like decision trees, random forests, which are like collections of decision tree support vector machines, and those artificial neural networks we talked about.
So you train it on knowns to predict unknowns. Makes sense.
hmm Then there's unsupervised learning. Here, you give the computer unlabeled data and say, essentially, find interesting patterns or structures.
Like sorting a mixed bag of objects.
Perfect analogy. It has to figure out the categories itself. This is really useful for things like patient stratification, finding hidden subgroups of patients who might respond differently to treatment, or discovering completely new disease subtypes. Methods like hierarchical clustering or k-means clustering are used here.
That sounds powerful for discovery, finding things you weren't even looking for.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, there's reinforcement learning. Think of it like training a pet with rewards. The AI agent learns by trial and error, getting positive or negative feedback based on his actions in an environment.
Trying to maximize the treats, basically.
Kind of. It learns the best strategy over time. It's showing promise in areas like optimizing clinical trial designs,
Right.
though it's maybe less common in direct patient care right now.
Okay, fundamentals covered. Now, the exciting part. How is this tech actually, impacting healthcare delivery, diagnosis, treatment? What are we seeing?
Right. This is where it gets really transformative. The potential is huge for just enhancing how we deliver care. We're looking at potentially more accurate diagnoses, definitely more personalized treatment plans.
Tailored to the individual.
Exactly. And more efficient use of resources. Ultimately, the big goals are reducing medical errors and improving patient outcomes.
Always the goal. So, concrete examples. How is AI helping doctors figure out what's wrong?
Well, one massive area is analyzing pathology slides and medical images. AI can essentially learn to read these images, like MRIs or CT scans or biopsy images, by converting the visual information into, well, mathematical patterns.
Turning pictures into data it can crunch.
Precisely. And it can often spot subtle things, patterns that might be hard for the human eye to catch consistently,
Yeah.
or just do it much faster.
Okay, so augmenting the radiologist or pathologist?
Augmenting and in some cases performing at a very high level. For instance, there was that Google DeepMind algorithm. It actually outperformed human experts in detecting breast cancer on mammograms in some studies.
Wow!
Yeah.
Really?
And another one, University of Pittsburgh developed an AI for prostate cancer diagnosis from tissue samples that hit 98% specificity and sensitivity.
Yeah.
That's incredibly accurate.
That kind of accuracy, especially if it's consistent, could be game-changing for early detection.
Absolutely. And it extends to other areas too. Deep learning models for spotting skin cancer, showing accuracy comparable to dermatologists. AI systems analyzing retinal images to detect diabetic retinopathy quickly and reliably.
Preventing blindness?
Potentially, yes, through early detection. It's also being used to analyze gene expression patterns to classify cancers, or using ML to spot specific markers like DMMR in colorectal cancer screening, which helps guide treatment. It's getting really specific.
So it's not just diagnosis, it's informing treatment pathways too.
Definitely. And it's even moving into the operating room. There are AI systems being developed and used to analyze brain tissue during surgery in real time.
During the operation.
Yeah, helping the surgeon differentiate between malignant tissue and normal tissue right then and there. Think about the precision that adds.
That's honestly mind-blowing. Okay, so diagnosis and guiding treatment. What about that idea of personalized medicine? How does ML fit in there?
ML is really the engine behind a lot of personalized medicine progress, especially for complex stuff like, say, immune-mediated chronic inflammatory diseases.
Like Crohn's or rheumatoid arthritis?
Exactly. By analyzing a huge amount of individual patient data, genetics, history, lifestyle, biomarkers, ML can help predict which treatments are most likely to work for that specific person.
Moving away from one size fits all.
That's the dream. And it even helps design the drugs themselves. ML can predict how a potential drug molecule might interact with cancer cells, for example, sometimes based on surprisingly limited data, or predict which molecules will bind well to specific targets in the body.
Speeding up that early drug discovery part.
Massively. Which brings us nicely to medical imaging, actually. We touched on analysis, but how is AI changing the imaging tech itself?
Right, like the scanners and how they work.
Well, more how we process and interpret the images they produce. Deep learning techniques, especially convolutional neural networks, or CNNs, are key here.
CNNs, those are the ones good at seeing.
Exactly. They're designed to process grid-like data like pixels in an image. They learn to identify features, from simple edges to complex shapes indicative of disease. They're the power behind many of these diagnostic advancements.
Yeah.
Got it. But a big challenge is the variety of imaging types. X-ray, CT, MRI, PET. They all produce different kinds of data. And often, you want to combine info from multiple types, maybe even with clinical notes. That's called multimodal data.
Seems complicated, like mixing apples, oranges, and, I don't know, text messages.
Yeah, it presents real challenges. You have to figure out how to pre-process all these different data types, how to extract meaningful features from each, deal with imbalances. Maybe you have way more CT scans than PE scans, handle the inherent differences, and then fuse the information together effectively and optimize the AI to learn from it all.
A lot of steps before the AI even starts learning properly.
Absolutely. There's a whole science to it. Researchers talk about a bag of tricks, techniques for data alignment, specific pre-processing for each modality, different ways to design the AI networks, training strategies, all aimed at making these multimodal models work better.
And what about when you don't have massive data sets? Medical data can be scarce sometimes.
Great point. That's a common issue. So researchers use clever workarounds. Data augmentation is when you create slightly altered versions of your existing images. Rotate them, zoom in, change brightness. It artificially boosts your dataset size.
Lord.
Then there's transfer learning. You take a model already trained on, say, millions of everyday photos, and you fine-tune it on your smaller set of medical images. It leverages the knowledge the model already has about visual patterns.
Kind of gives it a head start.
Exactly. And techniques like model regularization help prevent the AI from just memorizing the small data set and failing on new images. A study using breast imaging data showed these methods really help, using standard CNNs like AlexNet or ResNet.
So it's possible to get good results even without gigantic data sets sometimes. Can you give some more examples in specific imaging areas?
Sure. In liver imaging, AI is used to automatically segment lesions on CT scans, often combining multiple neural networks for better accuracy. It's also speeding up routine tasks like measuring things, assessing image quality, even optimizing scan times.
Making things more efficient.
Definitely. We mentioned diabetic retinopathy detection from retinal images. AI systems are achieving really high sensitivity and specificity there, which is crucial for screening programs.
Freeing up specialists.
Right. And there's this push for explainable AI, XAI, especially in fields like digital pathology, where you're looking at tissue slides.
Hmm.
Techniques are being developed so clinicians can understand why the AI flagged something as suspicious, like identifying cancer's nuclei. It builds trust.
That transparency thing again, super important. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Drug discovery, you mentioned ML helps there. It's known for being super slow, super expensive.
Oh, incredibly so.
Yeah.
Billions of dollars, decades sometimes. Machine learning offers a real chance to shake that up. By processing huge biological and chemical data sets much faster than humans can, it can accelerate finding promising drug candidates.
So speeding up the search.
Speeding up the search, refining the candidates, even predicting trial outcomes better.
Hmm.
It impacts multiple stages. In the early stages, think virtual screening.
Like searching giant digital libraries of chemicals.
Yeah. Exactly. Rapidly filtering millions or billions of compounds to find the few that might actually work against a specific disease target.
Okay.
Then there's de novo drug design.
Designing drugs from scratch.
Essentially, yes.
Right.
Using AI models that can generate new molecular structures predicted to have the right properties. And also drug repurposing using ML to find new uses for existing, already approved drugs. That can be a much faster path to treatment.
Finding new tricks for old drugs. I like it.
It's very promising. And again, deep learning architectures are heavily involved. Feed-forward networks, RNNs for sequences like proteins, CNNs for molecular structures, LSTMs for long-range patterns.
How do you even represent a molecule for an AI, though? It's not like a picture exactly.
Good question. It's a challenge. One common way is SMILE's Simplified Molecular Input Line Entry System. It's a text string notation.
Like a code for the molecule.
Sort of, yeah.
Huh.
But you need standardization, so canonization algorithms make sure the same molecule always gets the same SMILES code. Another way is one-hot encoding, turning molecular features into binary vectors the computer can crunch.
Translating chemistry into computer language.
You got it. And using these, deep learning is getting really good at predicting binding affinity, how well a drug sticks to its target, and doing that virtual screening we talked about. But it's not just deep learning. No, traditional ML still plays a role. Decision trees, for instance, are sometimes preferred because they're more interpretable. You can see the rules the model learned, which helps chemists understand why a molecule might be active. And support vector machines, SVMs, can be good for predicting toxicity, even with less data.
Sometimes understanding the why is as important as the prediction itself.
In drug discovery, absolutely. Mechanism matters. And interestingly, while older QSR models have been around for ages, deep learning often outperforms them now, especially for predicting complex properties like ADMET absorption, distribution, metabolism, excretion, toxicity. There was a Merck challenge that really highlighted this.
Predicting how the drug will actually behave in the body. Huge.
Massive. But of course, there are hurdles. Deep learning needs lots of high-quality, diverse data. That can be a bottleneck. And the black box problem persists sometimes. It's hard to know exactly how the model reached its prediction, which can make researchers hesitant.
Right, that interpretability issue. Okay, one more major area. Public health. Predicting disease outbreaks. This feels incredibly relevant now.
It really is. ML's ability to chew through massive, messy data sets is perfect for this. Think EHRs, social media chatter, climate data, genetic sequences of viruses. ML can integrate all of that to spot potential outbreaks much earlier than traditional surveillance.
Like an early warning system on steroids.
Pretty much. It can automate data processing, improve real-time monitoring, help allocate resources like vaccines or hospital beds more effectively if an outbreak seems likely. Supervised models can forecast flu trends. Unsupervised ones can spot weird anomalies that might signal something new emerging.
What kind of data sources are most useful? You mentioned a few.
Yeah, it's diverse. Electronic health records are key for tracking symptoms and diagnoses, though privacy, like HIPAA in the US, is a huge consideration.
Obviously.
Social media is surprisingly useful. Using NLP to analyze public posts for mentions of symptoms can sometimes provide very early signals.
People tweeting about a strange cough.
Exactly. Environmental data weather, Temperature, humidity is crucial for vector-borne diseases like Zika or dengue, and genomic data helps track virus evolution and spread.
Pulling it all together, what's the typical workflow?
It usually starts with data collection, then heavy preprocessing cleaning, handling missing values, normalizing it all so it's comparable, then feature engineering, selecting the most relevant variables. After that, you choose your model supervised, unsupervised, deep learning, train it on past data, validate it rigorously, tune it, and then finally use it for prediction.
Which models work best here?
Depends on the task. Random forests, SVMs, are good for prediction based on historical patterns. Clustering methods are great for anomaly detection in, say, social media feeds. Deep learning, especially RNNs and LSTMs, excel with time series data like climate patterns or sequential data like genomes. Sometimes you use things like PCA to reduce the data's complexity first.
And getting that data ready, pre-processing sounds critical.
Absolutely fundamental. Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah.
The quality and preparation of the data directly impact how reliable the predictions are. The data set needs to be big enough, diverse enough, and contain the right features.
And how do you know if a model is any good? How is success measured?
There are standard metrics. Precision, how many predicted outbreaks actually happened. Recall how many actual outbreaks did it catch. F1 score balances those two.
Yeah.
ROC-AUC gives an overall performance measure. Sensitivity, specificity, accuracy, the usual suspects. And studies show these ML models often do beat older statistical methods like logistic regression or ARIMA for outbreak forecasting.
That's encouraging. Any real-world successes?
Yeah, definitely. There have been AI-driven systems used for dengue fever prediction in Malaysia. We saw lots of ML-based COVID-19 forecasting tools pop up globally. There are examples of NLP on social media catching unusual symptom clusters before official reports, and deep learning analyzing genomic data to predict local outbreaks by spotting changes in virus strains.
Incredible. It really feels like we could get ahead of these things better in the future.
That's the hope. Proactive rather than reactive public health.
Okay, wow. We've covered a massive amount of ground, from the AML basics right through diagnostics, treatment, imaging, drug discovery, public health. Let's try to distill it. What are the absolute key takeaways?
I think the biggest one is just the sheer potential. AI and ML aren't just hype. They are starting to deliver tools that can lead to more accurate diagnoses, treatments that are genuinely personalized, and much more efficient ways of running healthcare and discovering medicines.
So better predictions, more tailored approaches, faster processes.
Exactly. But, and this is the other key takeaway, there are still significant challenges. We've touched on them. Ethical concerns, algorithmic bias, data privacy, the need for transparency, making sure these systems are safe and reliable.
The black box problem, data issues needing human oversight.
Right. And also practical things like training healthcare professionals to work with these tools, integrating them into workflows, ensuring equitable access. There's a lot to navigate beyond just the technology itself. The need for fair data principles, findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable is huge for building reliable models. Reproducibility is another challenge.
So immense promise, but real hurdles remain.
Precisely. It requires careful implementation, rigorous validation, strong ethical governance, and collaboration between tech folks, clinicians, policymakers, ethicists, everyone involved.
Hopefully for everyone listening, this deep dive has maybe sparked some aha moments, giving you a clearer sense of this evolving landscape without feeling totally overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's moving fast, but the direction is clear. AI and ML are set to become fundamental parts of healthcare.
Okay, so to leave our listeners with something to chew on. As we see data growing exponentially and AI getting more and more sophisticated, how do you think that balance between the tech and the human touch in healthcare might shift in the coming years? What fundamental principles should really guide how we integrate these powerful tools while keeping the human element central?
That's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? Finding that optimal synergy.
Something to ponder. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.